Just war. Alongside pacifism and realism, just war theory represents one of the three main moral responses to the issue of war. Just war theory has developed over the centuries with many philosophers contributing elements to it. Our summary is reflection of these various contributions. Just war. Just war theory applies to three aspects of war: when to start a war, how it should be fought, and how it should be ended. Jus ad bellum. This is the Latin phrase which concerns when it is just to start a war. Jus in bello. This is the Latin phrase which concerns how just war is to be fought. Jus post bellum. This is the Latin phrase which concerns the most just way of ending a war, just war, jus ad bellum. From the various just war theories, it is possible to identify 6 characteristics of when it is just to start a war: just war, jus ad bellum. 1. Just cause. These include putting right a wrong, self-defense, defending others, stopping violations of human rights, punishing an act of aggression. Just war, jus ad bellum. 2. Legitimate authority. War can only be declared by a legitimate authority. For Augustine this meant the Roman emperor. For Aquinas it meant a sovereign. For us it will mean an elected government. For the Catholic bishops in 1983 added competent to legitimate so as to exclude any incompetent versions of the above from having the moral right to declare war, jus ad bellum. 3. Right intention. The intention as well as the cause must be just. To pillage the enemy is not a good intention, nor is revenge. But to fight for peace without hatred for the enemy is, according to Augustine. However, seeking glory in war was often promoted as an intention for going to war. The intention someone has in war is too subjective to fathom, so Grotius rejects this principle. Just war, jus ad bellum. 4. Strong likelihood of success. There must be some chance of success, otherwise the war would be a pointless loss of life. But how is success to be judged? The Zulus were slaughtered by the British, but success for them partly meant maintaining their warrior pride despite their losses. Just war, jus ad bellum. 5. Proportionality. The harm which the war causes must be proportionally less than the harm which the war aims to overcome. Just war, jus ad bellum. 6. Last resort. A just war has to be a last resort. Other, non-violent ways of settling the dispute, should have been exhausted before the decision to use violence is made. These could include negotiation, a forum to air grievances, or economic and cultural sanctions. Just war, jus in bello. From the various just war theories, it is possible to identify 6 characteristics of how just war should be fought. Just war, jus in bello. 1. Proportionality. The means used in fighting the war need to be proportional to the nature of the dispute. For example, it would be wrong to use a nuclear weapon in a war over fishing territory. Just war, jus in bello. 2. Discriminate appropriate targets. For a war to be a just war, there must be a discrimination between combatant and civilians. Just war, jus in bello. 3. Obey international laws. There have been a number of conventions throughout history on how war should be fought. In 1054 it was decided that Christians should not fight on whole days. In 1139 the use of crossbows labeled unethical, between Christians. In more recent years the use of gas and chemical weapons and the treatment of prisoners of war have come under the control of conventions which combatants should obey. Just war, jus in bello. 4. Fair treatment of prisoners. The Geneva Convention says that surrendering or captured soldiers should not be mistreated. They should be kept in fair isolation away battle areas and exchanged for one's own POWs at wars, and today there is a question about whether terrorists deserve such treatment. Just war, jus in bello. 5. No practice of evil deeds. Soldiers must not use intrinsically evil methods in waging war. No robbery, rape, ethnic cleansing, or use of weapons that cannot be controlled. This might include biological weapons which have long-term effects on an area or landmines which could kill long after the war is over. Just war, jus in bello 6. No reprisal in kind. If country A commits an atrocity against country B either by accident of design such as bombing a children's home, country B should not retaliate by bombing a children's home in country A. Just war, jus post bellum. From the various just war theories, it is possible to identify 6 characteristics of how a war should be ended justly. Just war, jus post bellum. 1. Proportionality. The treatment of defeated states should be reasonable, giving no cause for revenge by those states in the future. This means that the demand for an unconditional surrender should be ruled out. Just war, jus post bellum. 2. Discriminate appropriate targets. In dealing with a defeated nation, the victor should make a distinction between enemy leaders, soldiers and civilians. This would rule out economic sanctions on the defeated nation. Just war, jus post bellum. 3. Sort issues that cause the war. This will help to ensure that the damage caused by the war will be outweighed by the good which the war hoped to achieve. Just war, jus post bellum. 4. Punishment of war criminals. War criminals should be prosecuted and victims of the war given justice if their rights were violated. Just war, jus post bellum. 5. Compensation to aid recovery. Financial measures may be necessary to assist the recovery of countries which had fought. The Marshall Plan at the end of World War II helped Germany to recover.